When I think of my music, my passion is to share my story through my music, through my lyrics, that people can relate to and say, wow, like I went through that. Like, okay. And also encourage people with my music to empower them to see, like, it's okay to acknowledge that I've been through this, or it's okay to feel how I feel, and this is how I coped with it. So this is, you know what I mean? Like, to show them, like, okay, this is how I coped with it. Hopefully you can find some type of healing or some type of direction on your process to cope.
As it stands right now, as I record this podcast, Best Buy is the company that I worked for the longest. I worked at two stores. First store was Owens Mills. During that time, we go back to September 2008, I met my next guest. That is the one and only Miss Heather Harvin. Heather and I came in the same orientation class, and we essentially joined a store that was a big family. Like myself, Heather has since moved on, and now she's a recording artist. So I'm very excited to have her on here today, and I'm excited for you guys to hear her discuss her new single, Dang Bay. How did that come about? But also the project that she's working on, and of course, how did she get there? How did she pack up from Baltimore and move to Los Angeles and been there since college? So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for recording artist Heather Harvin. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, I have a special guest on the line. Somebody I'm very excited for, whose story for you to hear, and that is somebody I go way back. I mean, we're
Way
talking
back.
about 12 years now. One of my
I
little sisters
know.
within my former employee establishments is the Heather Harvin. Heather, how
Oh
you
my
doing
god.
today?
I'm doing good. How are you, Brian? Oh my gosh. Yes, you are totally the big bro, for sure.
I'm so happy to have you on.
No, thank
Obviously,
you for having me.
yes, I've been, obviously watching your career, and you just skyrocketed. I mean, not that I was surprised, but
Thank you.
like I said, before we started, I was like, man, I hope she got time for her bro to get on the
Oh my,
podcast.
absolutely. 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 Always.
So
Your
how
family.
long? I appreciate that. So when did you start singing? I know a lot of people, they say like start as a child, some people start later. When did you start singing?
That is a great question. And I actually have a funny story behind that. So I was actually 18 months. And so my parents got married when I was 18 months. And it's on videotape. So literally in the middle of their wedding, I started singing James Brown. I got the feeling. Don't know where I heard it from, but like that was literally the first time anyone had ever heard me sing. And I'm like, baby, 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 like just singing the whole song. And it was, you could just see everybody turning like, what in the world? Like, who is this? 18-month-old child baby singing James Brown? But yeah, I mean, and ever since then, it's been a journey. The rest is history.
Now you started singing "Baby, Baby, Baby" at the
I
wedding.
did. I did.
Um, let's say you're 18 months. Did you? Who noticed it first? I have to ask.
So on the video, my both of my parents turned and looked at me kind of like, you know what I mean? Like they're at the altar kind of like, what? Um, and I just kept literally like I just kept singing. Yeah.
Wow. So now, did you from there did you start singing in church, or did you sing around the house? Like, where did your career obviously started 18 months. What
I
was the
know.
next step?
So the next step was definitely singing in the house. So I would sing, and my mom always talks about like sometimes when she would come home, she could hear me singing like from the front door, like as she's walking in, because I sang so much. And then when I became about, I want to say like 6, 7, my dad's from South Carolina, so we would always travel back to South Carolina because my grandmother lived there at the time, and she would clearly always have us at church So every Sunday when we would visit in the summer, they would be like, oh, do you want to sing a song? Because my grandmother could sing too. And she'd be like, oh, I want my granddaughters to sing. So it'd be me and my cousins. And literally every time they'd be like, Heather, you sing, you do it, you like to sing. And so I'd be like, okay. And then I would just kind of take it over, just kind of take the reins and just sing. And obviously in Baltimore growing up, clearly, I mean, we went to church every day. And so, yes, like singing on the church choir. I went to school for music. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of evolved literally from James Brown to church to now me being in LA. Like it's been a journey.
All right. Now, did you have a go-to song when you were in church?
I did. And it was interesting. Yeah, it was very interesting to say the least.
Which one was it?
Well, my grandmother was obsessed with, what is it? Jesus on the Main Line.
Okay, yeah.
She was obsessed with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the church in Baltimore, we always, have you seen The Preacher's Wife, Whitney Houston's Preacher's Wife?
Yeah, it's been a while.
I know, yeah. So they would always ask me to sing I Love the Lord. I love the Lord. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, those were the go-tos.
Oh, so you was moving people. Of course, you humble.
I'm like, I don't know what I was moving, but amen.
Now, did you go to school for the arts?
I did. Okay. I went to school for the arts, yes.
Yes, when my memory served me correctly, when we met, you were finishing up your senior year.
Was. Yes.
And, so I remember, we was at Best Buy. Shout out to store 1436. I don't know if
to the crew.
I don't know if you know, but I had transferred to. Remember when I transferred to Towson?
Yes.
Biggest mistake. It was not the same.
We turned up.
Yeah. We was definitely a family at 1436. The thing was, you remember we was in the same orientation class.
Yeah, we started together. Yeah.
Yeah, when we came in, everybody who was there already, they welcomed us in. And I'll give a couple shout outs to people we still maintain a lot of contact with who was starting. Shout out to Shantae, shout out to Kendall, and shout out to Eric Breedy. They were welcoming in.
Yeah, they were.
You go to Towson, it's different because you had people over there who were kind of stuck in their ways. And I'll give a shout out to two people, Dee and Sharice Brown. Those are the only two people who were like, all right, let's welcome you in. But they wasn't like Owens Mills. And later on, Carlos Crumpton would tell me they had the Owens Mills, they set the foundation, created family. So, and I remember, I remember somewhere around that time when we was there, I remember you mentioned about you singing, but then I also remember, like, I think one of the Ravens players that asked you to sing. Or somebody had asked you to sing, and you was singing at the. I don't know if you remember this, but you were singing at the register.
I don't remember this, but it's hilarious because I'm like, that's probably true. Like, this sounds like something that actually happened.
Yeah, and that's when everybody was like, man, and I think I was over in video games somewhere, and I said, have you heard Heather? She can sing. And I said, well, yeah, she goes to school for singing, so. But,
oh my gosh, that's so funny. I still keep in contact with one of the players too. Like, we're really good friends to this day. It's so funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was definitely some good times.
Yes, we have memories. All of us.
Absolutely. Even ones we can't share on air. But so you obviously you singing when you were in high school. What was some things that you learned or things you still apply for today? Because for people who do not know, School for the Arts, you care to tell them some of the big names outside of Heather Harvin who's come out of there?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, School for the Arts, at least when I was attending, it was in the top five arts high schools in the country, in the nation. And I'm pretty sure it still is. That's how intense it was. But just it produced a lot of well-named artists. Christian Siriano, who's a fashion designer, was there. Tracy Toms she's an alumni from School for the Arts. She's a singer actress. Actually ran into her a few months ago randomly at a play in LA. So yeah, like a lot of well-known artists and just performers and creatives come from that school. And I'm super grateful because the training is really what has marked my foundation as an artist today, because it's strictly classical based. Well, let me not say strictly classical based, but they start with classical as the basics and as the foundation, which it should, because that's actually where music derives from, essentially. And then once you become a sophomore and a junior, you can branch off into like jazz, gospel, you know what I mean? But they really make sure that your foundation, at least for music and vocals, you have to learn how to you got to go back to the basics. You have to have that solid foundation. And with classical music, in regards to singing, like that's what gives you breath support. That's what gives you tonality. That's what gives you, it's ear training. You know what I mean? Like that's what helps with vowel sounds. There's so much to it within that training that you need to transition into other genres. And I'm super grateful for it. I had an amazing voice teacher. She was an opera singer, well known. Loretta Young. She's amazing, and just surrounded by professional musicians that were just not only crazy talented, but they were just knowledgeable. Like they understood music at its core, and they knew what's going to help mold and shape you to really have longevity in your career. So yeah, it was awesome.
Now, for parents out there, I'm not sure how many incoming high schoolers listen to a lot of podcasts, but I definitely know there are parents out there who maybe listen to the show. What kind of advice would you give them if they're thinking about sending their children to School for the Arts?
I would say if you really believe that your child has a talent, like it's gifted, um, then I would totally send them to the School for the Arts. I think, like I said, the training is something that you can't get that anywhere else, sadly. And the transformation is impeccable from freshman year all the way to senior year. Like the transition and the transformation, it's out of this world. And that's not only with the music program, that's in all programs. Like literally, you can come in not having any training at all, like just having, if your child just simply has a passion to do these, to dance, to act, to sing, you know what I mean, with visual arts that can just draw, by the time they graduate, it's like night and day. They evolve so much. And I guess my advice would just be, if you really do believe that your child is talented, or if you see that your child is passionate about this, then I would invest into really putting them into the school, allowing them to audition and seeing, what can happen from this, because it's truly beneficial. It's going to help mold them and shape them for the real world if they're serious about it. But I will say this, if you know your child and you know that your child is not serious, or if your child won't be dedicated, because it takes a lot of dedication and it's a lot of hours. Even though, I mean, we had a regular school day, like the typical hours, but there's still after school practices. You know what I mean? There's still weekend rehearsals. You're still putting on performances. You know what I mean? Like so it requires a lot of time and investment. That's part of training. So if you know that your child may not like that, or if your child may struggle with that, then I would maybe consider alternatives. Maybe other options. But if you feel like your child may need this push, then go for it. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I know you even said not needing the training, because a lot of times people think, I know they may think like, all right, well, I would send my child there, but they didn't get the training in elementary school and middle school. But you're saying that, they can, if they got that raw passion and
Yes.
the ability, then they can get what they need coming out of there.
Absolutely. I've seen it literally where, I mean, for me, it was a little different because I had voice teachers prior to going into BSA, and I was also a part of their Twigs program, which is the program for like middle schoolers
My
where
son's a
you,
part of that.
yeah, you know, elementary and middle school is right. So I kind of had a, like, I don't want to say a head start, but my mom had invested into my training earlier on. But I was surrounded. I have classmates and still peers that I still literally talk to this day, where they just, the talent was just undeniable. They had a talent. They might not have had the foundation or the training, or they just maybe didn't know how to really use their instrument vocally, and also with dance too. Like I said, with all across the spectrum. But the teacher saw something, and they were able to help expand what they saw, like really mold and shape the instrument. Because by senior year, it was just like, oh my gosh, like people were ready to book professionally after 4 years. But like I said, it's that intense, hardcore training. So it's possible. I've witnessed it.
Yeah, I want to step back a few because you brought up a good point. You said your mom had invested in your training. Um, was it around the time when you started singing in church? When you would go back, like you mentioned earlier, about going and kind of being the one people would ask, "Hey, come up here and sing." Was it around that time when she really noticed it, or was it before that where she started investing in your singing?
So I would say, because I've started really singing a lot. I would say in church, like I said, when I was about 5 or 6. And once I got into elementary school, there was this program we had. I went to Edmonton Heights, down off of English, down off of English, yeah, off of Route 40. But so, and there was a teacher. His name was Mr. Providence, and so he had a drama club for all of the from, I think you had to be at least in second grade. I want to say second and fifth graders. And one of the shows that plays that we did, I mean, I had like a little solo or something. And I think my mom saw, it was there where my mom saw, like, oh wow, like she really enjoys this. Let me take this seriously. So towards the end of elementary school, she would put me, I went to a camp in Columbia for performing arts. I did that all throughout, even into middle school. So elementary, middle school, went to a camp, and then I would have after school programs. I got my first voice teacher when I was in fifth grade. And yeah, I mean, and then ironically, the middle school that I went to Sudbrook, and I went for music, for chorus, for vocals. And so, you know what I mean? Like she just, so I think it was, I would say probably elementary school, where she really saw, like, okay, I see that my child really likes this. Let me take this seriously. And she invested a lot, like a lot. So I'm super grateful for her.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Miss Julie. She's awesome.
She's dope.
Now, has there been times now you're singing, like you said, 18 months. Now we're right around the high school years as far as the timeline.
Right.
What were some of the challenges that you had going in? Because especially like going into a school like Baltimore School for the Arts, where I don't want to say, because I know it's not your attitude to be a know-it-all, but what were some of the challenges coming in having training? Were there things that you had to be retrained, or was it more so a continuation?
So actually, it was both. It was a mixture of both. I will say, coming into it, so ironically, look, and this is totally God, like this just so happened. The voice teacher that I had in middle school, Mrs. Carter, her husband used to lead the Morgan Choir way back in the day. He passed away, but she's amazing. And so, ironically, she and my voice teacher in at BSA had very similar styles, and they were friends. And they didn't find out. Well, my teacher at BSA didn't find out that I was with Miss Carter until obviously after I got in. But once she found out, she's like, "Oh my gosh, like that's one of my really great friends." And she was like, "We trained together." So I was fortunate enough to have similar training going into school. So when it came to just the process from freshman year to senior year, I was kind of familiar with it. So I was kind of grateful for that. It totally challenged me, but it wasn't something very new for me. But what was new was the music theory aspect of it. I had studied music theory in middle school, but it wasn't as intense. So then it, like I said, when you high school came, and it was very, very intense. And understanding, like, okay, this is what major means, this is what minor means, this is chromatics, you know what I mean, like this is a chord, this is how I play the piano, this is how I sight sing, okay, this is do, you know what I mean, like solfege. Like I had to learn all of the theory parts, which is actually very important, especially if you really do, for those artists that play instruments as well, you want to make sure that you understand the theory of it. But also too, when it comes to the engineering, like for recording artists, when it comes to the engineering parts and the mixing and mastering, you should probably know theory, because that'll help the mixing process, and you can be able to help kind of just further along that process as well. But so I had both experiences, kind of coming into it already experiencing some things, but having to relearn and learn a lot, like the heavy lifting. So it was both.
Awesome. So what came after School for the Arts? Did you go to college?
I did. I went to college, 18. I decided to move to LA. Went to school out here in Hollywood called AMDA, the American Music and Dramatic Academy College and Conservatory. And the rest is, like, literally the rest is history.
Real quick, now talk about that transition. I mean, you're on the East Coast, Baltimore, and 18, you pack up, you move to Los
Yeah,
Angeles.
facts.
What,
Yeah.
what was that like?
Well, that was, I'll be honest, because I feel like I believe in transparency, and I believe in, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I want to share, because I want people to know my story. So at the time when I was looking for colleges, I was going through a lot emotionally. Like I had a lot of anxiety. And I mean, you know me, like I'm actually a very chill person. I don't
Hmm.
really get mad easily. Like me and my mom and we like to crack jokes. Like I like having a good time. So it was weird because I was having a lot of anxiety, which was so uncomfortable for me. And I remember like I started to like just get super emo with my parents, and my mom was like, "Are you okay?" Because it was just so different. And one day I was in my room and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I can't stay in Maryland. Like, I want to move as far away as possible. And I just want to start a new life. Don't know where this is all coming from, but just, I mean, maybe teenagers, I don't know. Like, you just go through things where it's like, I just created this story in my head and I'm like, I just need to move. And I was like, I'm moving as far away as possible. And so AMDA was cool because AMDA is an accredited school, and like Jason Derulo went to AMDA, Janelle Monáe went to AMDA. So I'm like, okay, they have a lot of successful people that come from this school, and they have a campus in New York and LA. And my mom wanted me to go to New York, and we visited both campuses. Obviously, New York is closer, and I wanted Broadway musical theater at the time, which is, you need to be in New York for that. But like I said, I was just feeling so much, like, just I couldn't just process my emotions, and I couldn't deal with them properly or correctly. So I was like, I'm moving to LA. And so I did. And I haven't, I mean, yes, I come home for Christmas and I come home, here and there, like probably like 3 or 4 times a year. I visit my family and friends. But like, as far as me, like being a resident of Maryland, I have not been a resident since I was 18. So yeah.
Do you miss it sometimes?
I do. I do. And I had a culture shock moving out here because LA is very different than the East Coast. I'm used to, like you said, the family aspect at
Hmm.
Best Buy. Like right away, you're right. They took us in,
Hmm.
and we were a crew. You know what I mean? Like in my family, we're very tight knit. And so coming out here, it's very much so like not well. It can be like every man for themselves. People are focused on the dream. I get it, and it can also be superficial, and people just wear this facade where there isn't transparency, and sometimes people lose the humanistic aspect of their character. So I'm like, and even to this day, I'm like, dang, like I really do. Like I miss my family. I miss you guys. I miss just being in a state or a city, county, whatever you want to call it, just being in a space where people are just real. Sometimes I don't get that out here. I will be honest about that.
Yeah, because like I mean, obviously I had like all the jokes in the world about whether or not you would do the podcast, but to be serious, the one thing I notice, love, and appreciate about you is you're still the same person. Obviously, you're
Thank
older,
you.
but you
I hope so, Lord
didn't.
Jesus.
Yeah, you didn't go Hollywood on anybody. You know, you still. If, hey, if you see something, you still liking pictures or posts or whatever. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, I don't deal with those people no more. you know, um, and so that's the thing. Like I said, that's the beauty about social media is that
Hmm.
with the tight team that we had, we were able to stay in contact. Like I said, when I
Yeah.
left that store, it was one of those things I didn't want to, but I mean, it was just too much trying to go to
Yeah.
Morgan and then drive all the way to Owens Mills, come back. It was too much, especially being living on the east side. And I blame Shantae even to this day because she told me, she said, I don't think you're gonna like it over there. I said, what? She was like, I don't think you're gonna like it over there. You're gonna realize how good you
Yeah.
had it over here. And god dang
Hmm.
it, she was telling the truth. But just
Yeah.
let's talk about college. Now you picked your school. What was some of your highlights there?
Ugh. College, college, college. So I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm just thank you, God, because I have been very fortunate when it comes to music and just my career. God had put me in institutions or schools, like I said, from elementary, middle school, high school, and even college, where I got an amazing training, and I was surrounded by people who loved their craft, and they really helped. They were really helping just people really come into their own as artists. So college was in that sense, college was amazing. I was 18. Just it was, and my school is small. Like the college was small, just kind of like BSA. Like it's not this big university. Like it's very small, which allows a lot of one-on-one training or like hands-on training. And it was awesome because all of the teachers that I had in college are working professionals with great credits like Broadway stars, recording stars, professional dancers, amazing voice teachers, former opera singers. You know what I mean? Like people who understand the craft, but also the industry side of it. So I was able to get both. And a lot of people joke, like, well, what do you do at AMDA? Like, it's not a real school. But actually, no, like, I took an entrepreneurship class where I had to create my own business outside of music, so that way we could have like build life skills. They teach you, I mean, I know how to do this, but they teach you how to, like, manage a checkbook. You know what I mean? Like they teach you how to do your taxes. I took a romanticism class where we talked about history and literature. Like they give you a lot to prepare you for after college. When you go into the real world, you have to be an adult and pay your bills. This is how you, and then we took an audition prep class where they invite agents to come and see you. Like they prepare you for the industry and they prepare you for life itself. So I've been very fortunate. Like college was awesome, and then I was a part of this super group where it just kind of started off with a small thing, like maybe 30 people within the music program. One of my teachers, he was in charge of it, and we were just kind of 30 soloists that came together to sing group songs, but solo songs, and it evolved. I mean, it took up 2 3 years. Even after college, we still performed, where we did the Hollywood Holiday Parade on Hollywood Boulevard 2 years in a row. Capitol Records would come see us perform. We did like different events with the LAPD. You know what I mean? Like we were really, it it kind of blew up, and it was awesome. We were 20, 19, 20, 21, 22 2 year olds just really living the dream, like just doing professional gigs all from school. It just started with one man's dream, and it just evolved. So, yeah.
How did you stay focused? Because I mean, that's a
Hmm.
lot. You moving. All right, so you moved to California. Boom, settled in. But now you got all these other opportunities while you're still in school, finishing up school. How in the world do you stay focused?
Well, I never struggled with focusing. And that's another thing I'm super grateful to God for, like just giving me um, just a disciplined character. If I am passionate about something and I know that I need to focus on something, I'm gonna do it. I'm sure I have fun here and there, or other things may pop up, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna get back to what I need to get back to. And so, luckily, with college, it worked out because all of the gigs and events that was booking, it was through the school. So it kind of, and they actually made it part of our curriculum. They kind of made a class about it. So I was like, well, that was cool. Like I show up to class and it's, oh, we're performing here today. So I was like, well, that was, so it kind of helped take off the load of like well, I guess you could say schoolwork, but no, yeah, when it comes to focusing, I'm, even to this day, I'm like, no, like I can't play around with that. Like if I'm serious about it, I'm serious, and nothing can get in my way. So
Awesome. So let's talk about into your music career. When did you get the opportunity to record your first single?
That was post college. So that group that I was in, we broke up, and I was 20. I'm like, how old am I? Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. This was
I have to still
7.
remember you're not 18. I'm not saying this like in a
I know.
crazy
I'm
way.
like, I
Like as a
know.
big brother, I'm like, because you still look the
I
same.
know. I know. Everybody, and it's crazy because I'm the baby. Like, I'm the youngest sibling. I'm the youngest cousin, the youngest grandchild, like on both sides of the family, the youngest of all my friends. Because all of you were older than me at Best Buy. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah. And everybody's like, you're still a baby. And then, it is what it is. But I want to say it was 2012. 2012 or 2013, one of those years. After it was definitely after I graduated college because I had moved into my first apartment, and the guy, and this is I'm saying, I gotta give kudos, shout out to God. Like, God is so amazing. Like,
Amen.
he literally, Acts 17, like, he appoints the times and places for sure, because he had me move into this complex, and it's a huge complex where a lot of performers and entertainers live, and to the point where each building was A through Z. And so I had moved, at first I lived on Z, so at the far side, and then after college I had moved to building C. C, yes. And so when I was moving in, my parents were here. I just graduated. My brothers were helping us move. And so my mom, literally, she runs into this guy because he was like, he had headphones in and stuff. And he was like, oh, how you doing, man? Blah, blah, blah. She was like, oh, how are you? She was like, oh, you do music? And he was like, yeah, I'm a producer. She was like, oh, where do you live? And he was like, oh, I live in C102. And it's so funny because now, 8 years later, I still call him 102. But she's like, oh, you need to meet my daughter.
That
And
sound like your mom.
yeah, she always networking. She's like, you need to meet my daughter.
Yep.
And so I met him, and he was super chill, and like, he was just talking about God. Like, he was listening to gospel music. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, wow. Like, he has a strong faith. Like, he was different because, in LA, you run into some evil just in the industry, period, regardless of LA or wherever. Like, you just run into some dark things and see some dark people.
Same
But
in video production.
yeah, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, oh, like your spirit just feels uncomfortable. But I did not get an uncomfortable vibe from one. His name is Dedrick, but we call him 102. And so a few weeks later, I went down into his studio. Well, I walked downstairs, and we've been making music since. And so then it was 2012 because I moved in at 2012. So it was 2012, and I was going through a situation where I was heartbroken, my first real heartbreak. Like, you have the puppy love, but this was like for real. Like, oh my gosh, like, I was
That
so
one that
heartbroken.
really grab you. You
Yes.
don't want to eat, don't want to sleep.
Yeah, literally. And I'm like, I was 21 at the time, and I'm like, I'm an adult, but what is happening? I was just feeling so much. And I just started singing. So my first song it's called Mend My Heart. And so he's doing his thing. And then I remember I was sitting on his couch, and I literally just randomly, like, never wrote a song before, never even thought about writing songs. Hey, at this point, I really wanted to be on Broadway still. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't trying to do recording. And I was just so hurt. And I just started singing, like, I sit up every night crying because my heart is breaking. And then he just looked, and he was like, what? And so I just thought, it was kind of like I was freestyling a little bit, which is, I do not freestyle, but I was just feeling so much, and the words just kept coming out. And then I grabbed the pen and paper, started writing, and we literally made that song in like 20 minutes, like the whole track, lyrics, melody, the beat, all of it, like just within 20 minutes. And then the rest is history. Now we're here, now he and I created a visual album together. We're working on, my first real album. So, yeah.
Now, I was listening to Dang Bay.
Yee!
Now, I saw your interview on is Pop Fusion TV, right?
Yes.
Make sure I got that
Yes.
right. And can you just touch a little bit for the people who haven't seen that interview yet? Can you touch a little bit on because the song rocks.
Thank
Like I
you.
was listening to it, and I listened to it multiple times. I was like, man, like this sound good.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
can you just talk about the process of putting that together? This
Mm-hmm.
is going to be on your album, I'm assuming.
This is, yes. Yes.
And what made you choose this song to be the first one that you like your first single from it?
That's a great question. That's actually a really great question. I would say, and once you hear the whole album, it'll make sense, but Dang Bay sticks out. It's really one of a kind. It's different. Each song is different, but they kind of go together. But Dang Bay is that song where it just sticks out in a good way, I hope. But it's different and it bops. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, and I wanted to. I prefer to sing ballads. Like, I'm a diehard Whitney Houston and Celine Dion fan. So I'm like, I will always love you. My heart will go on. Like, Power of Love. I'm all about power ballads. And that's typically what I tend to go to. But with Dang Bay, it was different from me. And I'm like, I kind of want to do something different. Like, this is the first time I'm releasing a compilation of multiple songs and their personal songs. But yet I want to show people I'm almost 30. You know what I mean? Like, I want to step outside the box. I want to evolve as an artist, and I want to be creative. And I was like, dang, babe, it just made sense. It just felt right to just really lead with that song because it's different. I hope it's catchy. I was trying for it to be catchy, but yeah, it's like it's it's kind of just like I the word that I'm thinking, I'm like, it's just a very yummy song. And I'm like, I just want to feel yummy today. I don't know, but it's different. And that's what I was trying to go for. Something different.
Yeah, well, I hope that everybody's listening to it. If not, make sure you click the link in this podcast because it will be there. I'm telling you, it's rocking. I'll be honest with
Thank
you, I don't
you.
listen to as much R&B and rap as I used to, obviously, but this
Yeah.
is definitely in my rotation of
Thank
songs on.
you.
So, and I ain't just saying it's because you're my sister, but it's that good.
No, I know you wouldn't lie to me. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Now, I also saw like, I know you did some Christmas songs, and I wanted to bring that up because one of the things, before we get into that, one of the things
Hmm.
that you've always been able to do is to be um unapologetically uh a disciple
Hmm.
and
Yeah, a disciple.
unapologetically
Yes.
saved, and you let people know. Let's talk about the challenges of balancing that while you're not singing gospel music.
Yes. There's a lot of people. It's crazy. Yeah, a lot of people ask me this question, or they ask like, how do I kind of deal with the two territories and kind of merge them? Yes, amen. I totally believe in discipleship. I try my hardest to practice discipleship in the best way I can through scriptures, and there's so many scriptures. I'll be honest. So the basis behind just my thought process is just there's so many scriptures about there's one another scriptures like be devoted to one another, love one another, put others before you, and then there's another scripture in Hebrews where it says encourage one another daily. And so I'm like, well, encouragement. encouragement can be synonymous with so many things, like support one another, empower one another. You know what I mean? Like there's so many terms that you can just interchange or change that with. And so when I think of my music, my passion is to share my story through my music, through my lyrics, that people can relate to and say, wow, like I went through that. Like, okay. And also encourage people with my music, to empower them to see like it's okay to acknowledge that I've been through this, or it's okay to feel how I feel, and this is how I coped with it. So this is, you know what I mean? Like to show them like, okay, this is how I coped with it. Hopefully you can find some type of healing or some type of direction on your process to cope. And so I personally believe that I don't need to sing gospel music. You know what I mean? I believe that, it says that a disciple is known by their love and their fruit. So prayerfully, I hope that my fruit and the love that I project is biblical and encouraging, whether I sing praise God, glory, hallelujah, or I sing, can someone help me mend my heart because it's broken? You know what I mean? Like, so that's really my process behind that. It's just strictly, I just want to encourage people and I want to help support people, and specifically women, just to show them that it's okay to talk about things. Get open about it. You should get open. Please talk to somebody. And ultimately, you know what I mean? God is allowing this platform for a reason. So get open and then do what you need to do to just really feel God's love. So, yeah.
Wow. So now, I want to bring up, I brought that up. Now I want to talk about the Christmas songs because I really, another one, I'm mad that I missed them when they came out or around Christmas season. So Facebook and the algorithm can be messy
right?
sometimes.
That algorithm, oh my gosh.
But it's all good because it's in my library now. It's on Christmas is my favorite holiday, so I keep a Christmas playlist.
Okay, me too. I'm not the only one. Okay.
Right. And, I even have one for my daughter because when I would take her to school, she would want to listen to her Christmas songs. But can you just talk about what it meant to be able to produce Christmas songs, knowing, with this being your favorite holiday?
Yes. Okay. So I get very passionate about Christmas. As much as the same way I'm passionate about empowering women, I'm passionate about Christmas music. I'll be honest, like I would be totally okay if God were to be like, you know what, Heather, like you're only going to do Christmas songs from here on out for the rest of your career. I would be like a kid in a candy store. I love the Christmas holiday so much because that's the one time where we, hopefully, most of us, well, the intention would, I would hope, would just to put everything aside, all that we went through throughout the year. Like, you know what? Let's just focus on the joy. You know what I mean? Let's focus on the excitement, the happiness, the positives, family, friendships, faith. You know what I mean? Like, technically, yes, Jesus wasn't born on Christmas, it was December 25th, but that's the day that we choose as a nation and the whole world to celebrate his birth. And we reminisce on like something so precious being done, like Jesus. You know what I mean? And what does Jesus encompass? Love, faithfulness, loyalty, all of these positive qualities that I'm like, amen. Like, this is the time of year where we can just be positive, for whether it's for one day, 2 days, you know what I mean? The whole month of December, it just has the spirit behind it. I love it. I'm like, I want the encouragement. It's a time where I can invest and pour into my friends and just shower them so much more. And I get excited about that. So I love Christmas music. I like to get creative with Christmas music. I do love the classics. Don't get me wrong. I have a playlist that I listen to even like when it's not Christmas. I have a playlist. I love the traditionals, the classics, but I have just recently discovered, this is so funny. People laugh at this, but I'm like, it's called trap Christmas, like trap music, but Christmas music, like the hip hop and
Oh, we
everything.
was
I'm here
putting up
for it.
the Christmas tree last year
Oh
to that, me and the
Lord.
kids, because that's our thing. My wife, she likes Christmas, but she don't like to commercialize. Me, when Christmas time, I start my Christmas music
Yes.
November
Yes.
1st.
There you go.
I go through there, and so me and the kids, we usually, maybe before or sometimes right after Thanksgiving, we'll put the tree up. So we got the music
Right.
playing. So we had some trap Christmas music
Yeah.
play.
Hey. Yeah. Trap Christmas. But
So
I love that. I
do,
love just being creative
do you
during
plan to
Christmas.
do a Christmas, like different Christmas songs every year, like re-record, like record some every year?
Yeah, so I'm like, if I don't release, because there was a time recently, like so this project that I'm releasing now, that's actually the first time I've released, I don't say regular music, but R&B music
Mm-hmm.
in about 2 years. Like I took a hiatus, and that was when I was really just trying to solidify my convictions as a disciple and a Christian. You know what I mean? Like really just kind of hone in on my discipleship, like really be grounded in the word, just so that way as I move, now as I'm moving based off of scripture. You know what I mean? Like I'm really in tune with the spirituality of my faith. So, but I always made it a point to release Christmas music, even through my hiatus. Like, so that's how much I love it. Every year I plan on releasing something new. I actually started writing. Well, shout out to quarantine, you know what I mean? Because I've been able to write. And so working on maybe some trap Christmas, maybe not trap Christmas. I don't know, but I'm working on it, and I was hoping to do a visual album for my Christmas stuff this year. I don't know what the restrictions will look like in December, but I'm releasing something, and it's gonna be lit, and it's gonna be turned, and everybody's gonna be in the spirit. So
I can't wait for it. The title of the show is called "Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling."
okay,
When would you say that for your music career, you broke through the glass ceiling and had that moment where you solidified yourself and said, I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is the career I'm supposed to be in. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
I would actually say it was this year. And it was creating this project that I'm releasing in the summer. Because, like I said, I went on a hiatus where I was trying to find myself. And I remember my friends sat me down and they were like, Heather, literally, two of my best friends, literally, sat me down and they're like, Heather, you're so talented. You know, you have all of this music that you're writing, and you say you want to you want to empower women and you want to help people and you want to share it with the world, but they're like, you're not sharing your music. Why is that? And kind of like a come to Jesus moment, or whatever you want to call it, like a heart to heart. And so really I just got open about my fears, of, to be honest, being a Christian in this industry, my fears of putting my story out there, being vulnerable, like just so many fears I had to just get open about, only for them to say, and that is why you need to do it. And it just clicked. It was like, oh, like literally, like bam, light bulb. And I was just like, you're right. Like, I can't live in fear. I can't be hesitant. And I have to be a woman of my word. And if I say that I want to do these things to help people and empower people, and if I say that, that I that I'm grateful that God gave me these talents, but I'm not using my talents. You know what I mean? Like what? That's hypocritical of me. That's not. Yeah, that's not. That's not going to work. It won't. I won't be able to fulfill my calling in this world, my calling in life. So I would say that, yeah, that moment was beginning. It was literally January, beginning of this year. Just sitting down with two amazing friends who kept it real, but also just kind of opened my eyes to see, like, you have to move now. You've been still for the last 2 years. Now is the time to move into your calling, move into your purpose. Go.
That's amazing. So before we get you out of here, let the people know where they can follow you.
Yes. Okay. So I am, like you said, I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. I was on Twitter. I'm sorry. Twitter is just like, I'm like, this is too much. But you could honestly, like Instagram, you can totally hit me up. You can find links to my music. You can just see my day to day life. what I do each day. You know what I mean? Just find me on Instagram, and it's my first and last name. So at Heather Harvin, HARV as in Victor, IN as in Nancy. And please just reach out. You can find my music on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube. You know what I mean? Like SoundCloud, Reverb Nation. I'm all over. Please just, like I said, just if anybody, whoever's listening, please know, like I said, my heart is just to share my story and just to extend any type of encouragement and support that I can to whoever I can. So.
Well, I have to say, I'm so proud of you. Um,
Oh.
I'm very excited to see what's next. Next time you're in Baltimore, let me know.
I
Hopefully
was
we can link
supposed
up.
to come home for Mother's Day, literally, like next
Ah,
week, and they canceled my flight, both flights.
yeah. Well, we obviously want you to be safe.
I know.
You might still be able to. I'm not sure. I know there's people still traveling, so um,
I know. I gotta
but
look
yeah.
into that.
Yeah, obviously our prayers go out to everybody dealing with the
Yes.
coronavirus. So, so yeah, but definitely you be safe out there. I know you out there in California and y'all have a different type of restrictions. So, yeah, definitely be safe out there. Like I said, I'm just super proud of you and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you. And I actually had a lot of fun. And I'm so proud of you, Brian. Seriously, like you have evolved so much. And just to see you with your family, I love that. To see a black man, like a strong black man, like really just lead his household, that is groundbreaking. Seriously. And please don't ever feel like you can't call on me, because I'm still Heather from Baltimore. Like I'm still like I am who I am, and I love where I came from, and I know where I'm going, which is prayerfully I'm going to heaven, and that's it. Like,
Amen.
yeah.
Amen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that was my interview with Heather Harvin. I really hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. It was great to catch up with her. It's been a while since we spoke, but as you heard, we keep in contact. So make sure you download her track, Dang Bay, and make sure you also check out her album when it comes out. With artists now, you could just hit follow on Spotify or Apple Music. That way you get notified every time they drop something new. Now, next week, I am excited as we get ready to get into the month of June. It's Father's Day, and I bring on one of the best fathers I know, and that is my big bro, Carlos James Avent. So I promise you will not want to miss that episode, as he is a author and he's actually working on another book, so we'll talk about that. But we really get into his book that he wrote called 10 Extraordinary Lessons from an Ordinary Dad. I promise you, check out that book while you get ready for this episode. You can find it on Amazon. It's a good read. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how he goes about mentoring and so much more. Remember, folks, do not let anybody put up a ceiling that you can't break through. So long, everybody. This podcast was recorded and edited by B Waters Productions. The music by Hypno Beats. Make sure you follow him at Hypno_Beats with a Z on Instagram.